All right, somewhere here in south of France, it's a very good day to talk about hiking. And we're walking up the hike that's called La Pierre Percée. Anyway, so it is one of those places that is famous but nobody visits. I know people go to Namur where you have the train and the Tour de France went there once and all that. So it's all part of the mountains and you're close to the Alps. Anyway, so I've always wondered makes people like hiking. And so it just seems to be also cultural for people, minorities like in the US or in other parts of the world. People just don't go up the mountains. For example, in Africa, they've got Kilimanjaro, but Kilimanjaro is not like, oh, a pastime, let's me climb up the mountains. It's not something people do. And then when you think about that, you're thinking, hey, what does that really mean? Is it cultural? Well, probably to a certain degree, but it's also apparently a very close community that not a lot of people actually go hiking. So, with that, if you think about the amount of people that actually go up Mount Everest, even people, local people, the Sherpas they're called, they go there because, well, it's now become lucrative. Then they help people go up the mountains, but they don't do it because, well, it's just something you do. I want to go up the mountain to be the first. It's not part of the mentality. It just seems to be a very Western thing. But that said, the reason why a lot of people actually don't enjoy going hiking is that it is, well, dangerous. Think about it. A lot of people, when you see pictures of dead people going up Everest, it is said that almost 350 people have died trying to climb Everest. And you think about that, and you're thinking, wow, if you know that there's a greater chance of you dying, why would you want to do it? And it's like, you don't understand. It's just one of those bucket lists that you need to do in a lifetime. You need to do it to understand it. To a certain degree, I agree with them. Humans, it doesn't have to make sense. Not everything humans do makes sense. And it's just one of those things you need to really get in there, do it. And then if you die, well, tough. And I think one of the hardest things, what I've seen documentaries about Everest, people going up there, is that someone is dying. You've met them in base camp, and they're up on the way. You see them lying down, dying, and you're not going to stop to help them because you might die too. And this also reminds me of the Darien Gap, and there were multiple videos of YouTubers explaining what it's like, and they went through the Darien Gap between I think Colombia and Panama, something like that. Anyway, the story goes that it is one of those trails that the likelihood of you dying is just so great. And one of the tragedies of this was that people fleeing, trying to get up north, end up here, people from Venezuela or from Asian countries, going through the Darien Gap and trying to walk up the trails and trying to survive. And one of the tragedies was that if you don't get killed by some of the criminal gangs or the mafia controlling the area, you might also die from exhaustion or drinking water. Some of them will run out of water during the trek, and they died of the infection, waterborne diseases. So you get all that. So a lot of people, it just seems so dangerous. But there is a difference within just hiking out of desperation, because to avoid poverty, you have your goal, you want to reach the promised land. But then others do it for pleasure. And probably that's what doesn't make sense. All right. So annually, it says in the US, about 1,000 people die every year falling on trails or drowning. And that goes to show you that a lot of people do make it. So if you look at that average, the numbers, if those numbers are true, it is high. But it also goes to show that a lot of people actually do go hiking, and they enjoy hiking, and just for the fun of it. So if you do that, when you see some people are hiking because they want to stay in shape, get fit. Others are hiking because they want to get away from other people. Others are hiking because it's become a hobby and they do it to, clear their minds and be alone, with your thoughts and things like that. But people have said it is rather dangerous. For example, it says 15 people died in the Pacific crest somewhere in the US. So what is it that you're supposed to do? And there was a guy who went hiking, and then he got attacked by a bear, and then basically ripped his face off, and he survived. But I was like, and people say, well, this is bear country. You need to bring a spray and all that, and or you can outrun it. But they say, no, you can't outrun it. When it's coming at you, I don't think you can run fast enough. So there are just so many dangers. And then they say, how do you protect yourself? Well, plan ahead, dress appropriately. I've known people who have actually gone hiking during winter in Europe, and they died because they went and they weren't properly dressed, no preparation, and they just died of hypothermia or something like that, of exposure to the cold. And you're thinking, why would you want to do that? It doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't have to make sense. So what do? They said something else you need to bring is bring enough water. Hydration is important. And there was a couple in Utah. It is a father in his 50s and a daughter. They went hiking, and the last message they received from there was that they sent a message to 911 saying, well, we ran out of water and we're somewhere, and they got lost basically. And by the time they were found, they were already dead. And the other thing is that I think it was more than 40 degrees. It was just so hot, and people have been warned, be careful. Some of these places, the heat would get to you. You wouldn't have enough water. But then they probably were not well prepared. I think that's one of the things. And people have said, be prepared, know where you're going, what you need to bring with you, and bring a GPS, bring a map, so that you don't get lost. And don't do it when it's too what's it called, hot. Because another problem with this is that if you've ever been to Utah and some of these places, the temperature varies a lot. During the day, it's just so, Phoenix is just so hot that some people who could afford it would just move or go up north during the summer months and then come back later because it's just so hot. And then when you get there, some people are not prepared. They just some people have said, I've seen people on trails and they're in their no proper gears, no hiking gears. They're in their sneakers and just walking up the trails. You see them, no backpack with equipment to survive. They're just going and not really knowing what they're doing, or they just thought, oh, what am I going to do this weekend? Let me just go and walk along these trails. The same thing has happened in the Lake District, where people were not really prepared. I think there was a YouTuber who went hiking once, and then he went during the winter, and then he died. He wasn't really well prepared. I didn't know what he was trying to prove, but anyway, he froze to death. So hiking, winter or summer, can be really dangerous depending on the conditions. And another thing that people have been told, especially in the US, is that don't go off trails. If there are trails there, stick to it and indicate where you're going. And people have been lost and they've died, and once they found them, they realized they got lost and they couldn't find their way, and they were really close to the camp or where you have a shelter. So that's another thing that does happen. So if you go off trails, there are snakes, rattlesnakes or whatever the snake breed is. So it can be really dangerous. But some people just tend to want to wander off into nothing, and then when things go wrong, they can't even find them. And there was another couple where I think a French tourist couple were visiting Utah, and then they noticed a couple fallen off, and they were, I don't know, 500 feet down, or I don't know, 50 meters or 100 meters down. Anyway, apparently they fell off, couple. So another thing is this, that when you fall off, communications in most of those places. You don't have like telephone towers, you don't have anything. So if you have a flare, you could probably shoot it up the sky to try to get rescue. Your phone doesn't work, a lot of things just don't work. So when you're in a place like that, it is the the more you go, the more alone you are, well unprepared, the likelihood of not coming back alive is just greater. So you're told to take your first aid kit, and if you go into a bear country, have your bear spray with you. It doesn't always work because anyway, it's just I don't get it sometimes. And they say don't go alone, and then you hear a couple died, and you're thinking, well, there were two of them. Well, yeah, it does happen. Imagine if you're alone. Anyway, and then get your GPS. I don't know, gloves. A lot of things that you need to be prepared, you need to be experienced. And another thing that is rather shocking is that when people I think almost a 6-year-old guy, he died of exhaustion. It was so hot, and he went hiking, and probably not in good condition, and he probably was dehydrated, and then the body just gave up. It's just like your car overheating, and after a while your car just said, okay, that's it, I'm done for today, don't, I'll see you next time. Anyway, so the body just gave up, and he died from exhaustion, heat, and whatever it is. So you get that it's just not a good thing. So when you think about that, I think one of the most surprising things is that I've talked about, snakes, the cold getting to you, the heat getting to you. A British guy went hiking, and apparently he didn't die from snake bite or animals or any other things. A boulder fell off, hit him on the head, and crushed him, and he died. So that's another thing. So it's not the risk of you actually falling, is the risk of rocks falling and knocking you out and killing you. So the question is, why is it that people don't like hiking? Because of all these reasons. And so why would you put yourself in danger? And I think sometimes people overestimate themselves, the capability. Oh yeah, I'm fit, I can do this. But it's not even about that. It's just that the weather can change so rapidly. And in some cases, people have said if you're hiking, hike at night, stay on the trail, because if it's too hot, it becomes very dangerous. But if you're hiking during the winter in a cold area, hike during the day. Visibility is better, and it's less cold, less windy. So all those things. And people have even said, even if you're hiking and you have a shelter, you still have to be careful, for the simple reason that in some of the shelters you sleep in close proximity to people, and people snore, or people are sick, and then you get norovirus or whatever it is you get. So it is just like when you go hiking, common sense should prevail. Preparation should be a good thing, and don't overestimate yourself, or don't underestimate nature. It can kill you.